Is the Edge EZX right for you on the 3.0 Duramax diesel?
0 to 67.8.
Well, that is a question that I'm hoping to answer, and I'm going to do that by going over a couple different things. One of which is the install of this, the app and how you change the power levels, the drivability of it. I've driven this a couple thousand miles now. I've had some pros and cons with it, and I'm going to share that with you. We're also going to discuss the potential warranty implications that could come from installing something like this. The drivability of this is very, very good. I was very impressed with it. The power was definitely noticeable, and I do have a full video where I talk deeply about the power differences. I have 0 to 60 times, 10 to 70 mile an hour times, just seeing how well it performed on normal driving and getting up to speed. The difference is there. There's definitely a change in how the turbo feels. It spools up a little quicker. The response is quicker. And that was without using any of the pedal throttle sensitivity modifications that are within that as well. So this was just straight the power that it added. I do want to point out that while driving, I noticed two things, one of which my fuel mileage went down. Even normal driving, my fuel mileage went down. And that's understandable because we are bumping up the fuel pressure. We are running a little more boost. So we're naturally going to use a little bit more fuel when doing that. The other thing is my turbo temperatures on the outlet, which is Charge Air Cooler 1. I've noticed on my Banks iDash gauges that I actually can tell that the temperature is a little bit higher than normal. Based off of normal driving, I'm seeing temperatures as high as 330 up to 340 degrees out of the turbocharger. EGTs were in check, sitting around 1,000 or below, but that outlet there was hotter. The Charge Air Cooler did a fantastic job of cooling down the air before it went into the intake. So that there is no negative on that. It's just something that I noticed that the turbocharger is running a little bit hotter on that air coming out.
Currently climbing up acre grade. We've been going up a little while. I just wanted to point out the EGTs sitting at right around 900. Been pretty consistent there. We have not needed to downshift or anything at this point. Good RPMs, just holding good speed. Def level sitting at 77%. Our fuel economy has been pretty decent. Nothing great.
The other notable on this is the transmission. Now, whenever I change the power levels, I would notice that the transmission did shift a little bit different. Now, I suggest once you pick a level of tune that you want to keep it on, keep it there and let the transmission do its thing where it learns, and it will get smoother over a couple hundred miles. So just pick a level and stick with it. I also want to point out one crazy thing that I noticed while on a very long road trip. And I've done this road trip many times, and I know how much DEF this truck is going to use on that road trip, and I've done it before. And I did have a most recent programming. I've even driven after that programming, and my DEF consumption was still the same. I noticed 50% DEF used on my recent trip, on a long road trip. I was blown away. I'm not 100% certain as to why that was. I do kind of think that with the way that this is changing the fueling in the air, that it actually has lower NOx. So maybe that's why we use less DEF. But that was one thing that I noticed with this that was absolutely not expected at all.
But we've got something incredible going on here. The DEF level is 94%. Typically at this stop, so you can see right there that usually by now I'm at 84%, 84, 85% when I stop here at this exact same spot, and we're at 94%. So that is pretty incredible because that doesn't happen. Low DEF consumption. Our total miles so far, we have driven 281.1 miles based off of this 23.0 miles per gallon. But when we hand calculate it with the Fuelie app, we have 21.9 miles per gallon.
I did run into one issue, and that was a P0101 code. I reached out, asked them, hey, have you ever seen this before? And they said, no, it's not a common thing. However, what I can do, since I had full airflow modifications, they suggested that I could disconnect the mass airflow sensor portion of it and just let the unit do all the other things. Since I already have airflow modifications, I opted to just go back to the factory setup, and after driving it over roughly 2,000 miles, I had zero issues. So There was no issue with the Edge EZX. It just came down to my aftermarket airflow modifications, and the Edge EZX just didn't play nice with each other. Again, I have a video explaining that, showing that in greater detail as well. But that was the only issue that I've had with this, and it wasn't an Edge EZX issue. It was just a combined too many items type of issue. The installation of this was pretty straightforward. I provide a full video on how I installed mine. And I want to point out that the installation here is based off of the instructions, but one of my more enthusiastic subscribers actually pointed out that this could be installed a little bit cleaner and actually look a little bit better. Before I show that, I want to point out one thing, that not only is it visually better looking, but at the same time, with the way that I have this set up, these wires can get water intrusion. That is a weather pack connector to where that weather should not get in, so there shouldn't be dirt, water, anything that gets in there. But with it pointing up like this, there's a high chance of that happening. So with the other visually appealing install, it's not only visually appealing, it's also a little bit more beneficial because it should keep that stuff out of that connector. So I pulled the connectors out so that way we can see the back side here. Now this is the factory connector that would slip in like so, and that's how that we had it installed before. By using actually the Edge EZX connector, just by utilizing that connector, that was definitely a good find right there, and that's how it can look a little bit better. Now you can see the cover is on there, so it's going to keep debris out there. Thank you to that enthusiastic subscriber. I do what I can to share the information, and I do appreciate when others share information back with me, so that way we can make the whole community stronger. These connectors need to be secured down there, and also watch out for any water intrusion and whatnot through the different areas over here. But just be mindful, you don't want anything rubbing or anything like that. On the back side here, I do have the Edge box secured right there, and it has not moved. It's stayed there through some weather and vibration. So that's a good location for it right there. Let's talk about the warranty on the vehicle. Now, that is a huge question. Any modification that you add to a vehicle could potentially have warranty implications. Now, obviously, the item has to be the cause of the issue. And so it ultimately comes down to that. So just keep in mind that this is a power adder. And so you're putting extra strain on the engine, you're putting extra strain on the transmission, the full drivetrain, and that could have potential implications down the road. So that's just something to keep in mind. We have to be honest with ourselves here. If you're modifying something, you are running that risk. Now, since it is a high-level company that provided this product, we have to assume that all the testing has been there and we're going to have no issues at all. But just keep in mind, if you do have an issue, there may be a warranty implication with it as well. So modify at your own risk. This whole channel is based off of the 3.0 Duramax diesel. I do like to grab new products like this. I bought this one the day that it came out, and I got it the next day. Super fast shipping. We installed it. We've done all the testing with it, and I do what I can to share the information, and I do appreciate when others share information back with me, so that way we can make the whole community stronger. So I'm going to go ahead and move on to the next project, but be sure to check out the other videos. Till next time, see ya.